I still remember the sharp crack of bone and the way my brother screamed tore through the air, like something alive. I was in the room when it happened. One moment, we were all laughing, playing inside the house, and the next he was on the floor, his arm twisted in a way no arm should ever be. Tell us where you're watching from, we'd truly love to know. And if there was a moment in this story that touched your soul, please share it with us in the comments. It would mean the world to us to hear your heart. My mother reacted before anyone else could even breathe. She ran barefoot out the door without a second thought, and I will never forget the sound of her feet slapping the ground as she vanished into the open air. She came back moments later, pulling at the arm of a neighbor, begging him for help. And then she was guiding my brother out the door, his face pale, his breathing fast. I could see her hands shaking, but her eyes were steady. We reached a relative's house, and without hesitation, they called for a jeep. The ride to the hospital was endless, my brother biting down on his shirt to stop himself from crying, and mother pressing his head into her chest, whispering over and over that everything would be all right. But the truth was, none of us knew. The hospital lights were cold, the smell of disinfectant heavy, and the doctor's face unreadable. He spoke quietly to my mother, and I saw her shoulders drop like the weight of the world had been poured onto them. They said, not one, but 2 surgeries would be needed to repair his arm. The first night felt like it lasted forever. The sound of metal tools clinking behind the theater doors, the occasional shout from inside, and the endless silence between. Each of those sounds etched into my memory, and when the doors finally opened, my mother stood without moving her eyes, searching for her son as if the rest of the world no longer existed. The nurse wheeled my brother out, his arm wrapped in layers of white cloth, his skin pale, his eyes half closed, and my mother followed with the same steady gaze that never wavered. They told us the second surgery would be scheduled in 2 days, and in that time my mother never left his side, not for a single minute. I saw her sit on a wooden chair beneath his hospital bed every hour of the day and night, her back straight, her hands always resting near his fingers in case he reached out. She never asked for food. She never asked for rest. And I think she feared that if she looked away, even for a moment, something might happen. The second surgery came, and it was worse than the first. The doctors working for hours behind closed doors while the sound of the rain outside grew heavier against the windows. I remember staring at the small red light above the operating room door, as if it was holding our fate. My mother whispered prayers under her breath, words so quiet I could barely hear them, but I could feel the weight of each one. When the door opened and the doctor stepped out, his face unreadable again, my chest felt like it had locked shut. He said the procedure was done, but recovery would be long and painful. We returned to the ward, and there, my mother began her quiet vigil each day, passing in slow motion each time my brother groaned in pain. She was there, her hand on his forehead, her voice like a shield against the darkness. The other patients and nurses began to notice her presence, speaking softly about the mother who never left her son's side. I do not know if she even heard them because her world had narrowed to a single point. That bed, that boy, and the hope that he would one day walk out of this place whole again. But as the days stretched into weeks, something else began to trouble her, a faint, unnatural stiffness in his arm that the doctor seemed reluctant to explain. 2 months passed, and the hospital became our second home. The smell of medicine, the distant sound of footsteps in the corridor, the constant hum of fluorescent lights etched into our senses. My brother was finally discharged, and though his smile was faint, it was there, my mother holding his arm gently, as if it were made of glass. We thought the worst was behind us, but in quiet moments I saw the way he would flex his fingers slowly, then stop, as if something inside resisted. He never said anything at first, perhaps not wanting to worry my mother, but one evening, I caught him alone, sitting by the window, turning his arm in the fading sunlight, and I could see the unease in his eyes when I asked. He admitted there was a strange feeling deep inside. Not exactly numbness, but something wrong. My mother heard us and came closer, her face unreadable, but her hand instinctively reaching for his arm. She held it for a long moment, her eyes glistening, though she said nothing. The next day, she took him back to the hospital, where the doctor examined him. With a long silence before speaking softly about possible long-term damage, he explained that sometimes, no matter how skilled the surgery, some injuries leave behind a shadow of themselves, a reminder of the moment they happened. My mother listened, without blinking, her grip on my brother's hand tightening ever so slightly. On the way home, she walked beside him, slowly matching each step as if to say, "You will never walk this path alone." That night, I lay in bed thinking about everything we had been through. The fear, the waiting, the endless nights in that cold hospital. And I realized that while his arm might never be the same, our family had been changed too. There was a strength in my mother's quiet watch, a love so relentless that it could stand against any darkness. And in that truth, I found the only kind of healing that truly lasts.